It's Wednesday, February 7. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Motorists will have to pay more for traffic breaches once the Road Traffic Bill 2017 becomes law. The House of Representatives finally approved the Road Traffic Bill yesterday, nodding to heavier sanctions for breaching the road code and giving the police full authority over the use of the country's roads. Transport Minister Mike Henry said an original bill which had been tabled under the previous government was reviewed and retabled by the current administration after an exhaustive review based on responses from stakeholders and the general public.
This minister expressed concerns about persons who are permitted to drive, citing infractions in the A, issuing of driver's license, use of defective vehicles, alcohol levels in crash victims, as well as the use of quantity of ganja, etc. These matters did not escape the policymakers, Mr. Speaker, and efforts are being made to modernize the authority and include the automation of vehicle testing, which will, to a large extent, remove subjectivity. Also, the tax administration, Jamaica, is currently in discussion with two overseas companies who have presented proposals for a new motor vehicle system, which will hopefully address issues surrounding the driver's licenses. Mr. Speaker, as far as the excessive levels of alcohol in crash victims, the bill proposes acceptable alcohol levels shall not exceed 0.02% for regular drivers and 0% for the learner driver and the driving instructor.
Heavy penalties have been included in the bill for activities like driving without required motor vehicle insurance coverage, attracting a $20,000 fine. Driving without a license or permit, $40,000. Driving a motor vehicle without a permit entitling the driver to use a vehicle, $30,000. Exceeding speed limits, between $6,000 to $15,000. Jamaicans who live abroad and non-Jamaicans who wish to do business in the country for 6 months or more will be required to register under the new National Identification System, NIDS. According to the Chief Technical Director of the Office of the Prime Minister, Jacqueline Lynch Stewart, this will become effective in 2019 after NIDS is fully rolled out. Addressing a town hall meeting on the NIDS at the University of the West Indies, Mona, recently, she advised that individuals who are not citizens, but they live here and they've been here for 6 months or more and they're doing business, they too will be required to apply for a national identification number and card. She pointed out that, like Jamaicans, a 9-digit national identification number will be assigned to these individuals. She reiterated that the system will be trustworthy and of international standards, which Jamaicans living in the diaspora and non-Jamaicans can rely on. Former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson says a legal challenge to Prime Minister Andrew Holness's appointment of Justice Brian Sykes as acting Chief Justice could result in a constitutional crisis. The former Prime Minister told Nationwide News that the reference to vacancy in Section 99 of the Constitution isn't synonymous with the situation. Chapter 7, Part 1 of the Jamaican Constitution, Section 99 states, if the office of the Chief Justice is vacant, or if the Chief Justice is, for any reason, unable to perform the functions of his office, then, until a person has been appointed to that office and assumed its functions, or, as the case may be, until the Chief Justice has resumed those functions, they shall be performed by such other person qualified under subsection 3 of Section 98 of this Constitution for appointment as a judge, as the Governor-General, acting accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, may appoint for that purpose by instrument under the broad seal. The argument presumes that the government knew in advance that the former Chief Justice was about to retire. Mr. Patterson is reported as saying vacancy refers to situations where, for example, the incumbent died or the other person to be appointed is abroad. According to the Nationwide News report, Mr. Patterson notes that even those cases could be challenged legally. He says that's among the reasons why Jamaica has never had an acting Chief Justice. Attorneys for former Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller and senior officials of the People's National Party, PNP, are reportedly set to outline arguments to have the so-called Trafigura affair case go before the London-based Privy Council. Last year, the appeal court dismissed their appeal against a Supreme Court ruling that Simpson Miller, Philip Paulwell, Robert Pickersgill, Colin Campbell, and Norton Hines must testify in open court about the $31 million donation by Trafigura Bahir to the PNP in 2006. The Dutch authorities want to question the former Prime Minister and PNP President and the senior PNP members, but they have challenged the ruling to give statements in public. Under Dutch law, it's illegal for companies to donate to political parties. At the time of the donation, Trafigura had an oil lifting contract with the then PNP administration. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has filed documents opposing the application for the matter to be taken to the Privy Council, Jamaica's highest court. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson will pay a working visit to Jamaica today on the final leg of his Latin America and Caribbean tour. He will hold talks with Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Mr. Tillerson has visited Mexico, Argentina, Peru, and Colombia, seeking to promote a safe, prosperous, energy-secure, and democratic hemisphere, and advocate for increased regional attention to the crisis in Venezuela. In regional news, the Caribbean regulatory system has launched DIGI, a voluntary regional system for CARICOM states to report adverse drug reactions, suspected substandard and falsified products. Medicine safety and monitoring systems are often limited in the individual small states of CARICOM. The new program will help to protect patients and bolster their confidence in healthcare, as well as send a signal to manufacturers and distributors that their products are being monitored for safety and quality. DIGI is endorsed by CARICOM Ministers of Health. It allows health professionals, members of the public, and other stakeholders to report to the CRS for regulatory analysis and action. Through this system, CRS may share information about problematic products with CARICOM states, pool data to identify signals, and make recommendations to governments about regulatory actions. In sports, the first day-night test to be played in the Caribbean has been scheduled for the Kensington Oval in Barbados in June when Sri Lanka tours the Caribbean. The day-night fixture, which will start on June 23, will be the third match of the series, which begins on June 6 at Queen's Park Oval in Trinidad. The Darren Sammy Cricket Ground in St. Lucia will host the second test starting on June 14. It will be Sri Lanka's first test tour of West Indies in 10 years. And that's the news.